Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gents. Welcome once again to another ZRL pre-race show with me and Drip. And today we have a treat for you. We have Red Bull driver Ethan Patel with us here. Ethan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing good and ready to talk about some D1 action.
Let's go, man. Let's go. So, before we get right into the action, I wanna discuss, I wanna break down a bit some of the races we've had D4, D3, D2. Um, let's talk about your race, Ethan. The
Oh,
D3 one. I know you're not too keen on talking about it, but I mean, it gave us a lot of action, a lot of controversy. Lots of safety cars. So, um, I want to ask you, how did you feel like initially going into the race? In terms of pace, of setup. Like, did you feel confident, or did you feel like you could have changed your setup a bit?
now I thought the setup was race stable. I was scared for qualifying, and then
Okay.
qualifying kind of happened. And of course, Spa, there's always that threat of rain, and it happened where you had like I think like 3 minutes, if even, of dry time, and then it went straight to wet. So believe me, Cole, and like Novera set really good laps because we went out first, and then it kind of just went like terrible for everyone else, so no one can really get a good lap in. So then qualifying was good for me, which I wasn't expecting, but then the race was a whole different thing, and I was nervous on the throttle, and I think that's just like something that people have to deal with, and I didn't deal with it well. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, changeable conditions did make it hard. I honestly, like, watching the race. I didn't expect it to get that wet at the start. Like, I was hoping maybe the top four would actually get a good lap in, but the track got super sleepy. And then yeah, like you said, I mean, Spa is pretty unforgiving. Lots of safety cars. And so what advice would you give D1 drivers in case they get a wet race? Maybe go a bit easier on the throttle, the curbs. What would be like your
Well,
thoughts on that?
those guys are absolute aliens, so I'm pretty sure they know what to do. But I would say just keep it easy on the throttle, lift where you need to. It's a whole you got 22 laps. You don't need to risk anything in the first like 5 laps or anything like that. That's crazy.
I agree. I agree about that. Drip, what about you? What did you think about uh, the previous D3 race with the rain and with the 4 or 5? Because I think they did. You guys did what, like over 50% of the of the race on under safety car. So
Yeah, that was quite an experience. Kind of helped me make up for my mistakes being first race back. But
mm,
yeah, that wet qualifying was interesting. Ethan hit it right. There was only a few minutes there to try and get out. Tried to get out, get myself a dry lap. Unfortunately, was impeded. Not gonna name names. Not gonna point fingers. Things happen. It's racing, but couldn't get one out. And yeah, but by that 4 or 5 minute mark, it was full wet. You're not keeping up with those times they put down under the 50 minute 50 mark.
uh, impossible. So yeah.
But
Yep. No. I was gonna say, just in terms of tire degradation and wear. Um, we've seen, like, we've analyzed, and we've seen that basically what around lap 6, 7, 8 maximum. If you're running softs, they start to fall off massively. Of course, like, if it's dry. And so I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think in terms of strategy, medium versus soft, or soft versus medium? Which one would you think would hold up?
So the soft medium is pretty basic, and you'll be able to use it pretty well. You'll be able to
Mm,
stay within DRS trains, which is really common in D1. Uh, but if you're able to do the medium strategy, I was engineering for Big Mom and Frank last night, and he actually made it work because the soft tires are really fast towards the end. And if people, because at the end is when people start actually battling, right? So they're
right.
going to start holding each other up, and then you're going to be on the fresh softs and try to get around them, catch up to the next DRS train. So I feel like if you're in that like P11, P12 position in qualifying, you could really benefit from going on the alternate strat rather than sticking with everyone else.
Right, because like if you can keep up on the mediums, like if you can keep up with
Yeah,
the soft runners DRS train, you're basically set, right?
yeah. The
Because
only problem, yeah.
yeah,
So
go ahead.
this is D1, right?
Hmm.
It, the only problem is if you started on the mediums in let's say D3 where there was so many safety cars, you're never gonna make. So it's a risk reward. If you risk going on the mediums, you could have a better race, but a early race safety car could really just end your race.
Yeah. Trip, you started on the softs as well, right?
I started on the
You
soft.
started as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Trip, you went for the
Yeah, I
mediums.
started on the
So
softs,
okay,
soft to medium,
soft to me. Okay,
and
yeah.
Ethan kind of took all the points I could really make there. I mean, guy does a better job at putting them out there too. But yeah, the alternate strategy is pretty successful here if the amount of safety cars is as close to zero as possible. But if you get one early, those people who started on softs, they're getting a free pit stop, and that tire advantage just might hurt you. So
Hmm.
it's all about playing the field and knowing who you're driving around. It is D1, so the likelihood is low, but could
Yeah,
be a gamble.
I
Could
agree.
also be a wet race. We don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Throw everything out the window.
I'm, I'm having like this hunch, that might have dry quality, but just torrential downpour race. So hopefully I'm mistaken, but if not, I'm pretty sure these D1 drivers can can handle it. So in terms of overtaking opportunities, as you both mentioned, we have uh, two DRS zones and that a train that can be formed fairly quickly. So I'm guessing either you dump your ERS or just wait for the car ahead to make a mistake, right? Because I mean, there's not really too much like there's not really too much else you can do because like since the track is so big, you can't really force another driver like to go off track, as I'd say. So looking like looking at that, if you're under attack and you have DRS, from a car behind that has lower wing, would you dump your ERS trying to defend on the straights and trying to lose him on the second third sector, or would you try and work with him on the like swapping positions on the straights?
I think
I don't know.
I think it depends on the driver for sure.
Okay.
And then also the driver behind. If you know that person's going to be cooperative and switch DRS with you, then
Mm,
you kind of let them by. But if you know they're going to fight for every position they get, you kind of want to stay in front, especially if you're running a lower downforce setup, then you want to try to run away in sector two
okay. Which is a bit hard to
or
do.
higher downforce.
Higher,
My bad.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. Because once again, I mean, lower downforce is higher top speed, but then again is more tire degradation. So I don't know. I think it's gonna be interesting to see these different D1 drivers go for different strats. What would you guys say is gonna be the meta? Are they gonna go for something like high downforce like 9.8 or something super low like 5.4, something like that? What are your thoughts on that?
I think people will stay with the normal meta, which is that 7-4 setup, 6-4, 7-4,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Okay.
Uh, it's just, I feel like it's more like versatile in
Mm.
that you get the straight line speed, but you also get some downforce. Some people running high downforce will try to risk it and try to run away in DRS zones, but that might not necessarily be like viable throughout the whole race, especially if you're like on an out lap or in lap, you're trying to basically like set the fastest lap possible, which that could really hinder you.
I agree. I agree. So now, oh my God, wait. All right. Coming into the third race of D1, what are your predictions? Um, who do you think is gonna be your top three today at the podium? Trip.
I I think we can definitely say there's going to be two Red Bulls up there.
Okay.
Looking at the constructors right now, they're already starting to pull away. They're starting to form a nice early lead,
Mm.
and I think their team directive is definitely going to be push, try and make that gap a little bit bigger if possible. But I can definitely see Ian trying to put himself in there. He is the closest driver to the top two Red Bulls right now, and is Ferrari's number one. But Peter is not too far behind. He's only 3 positions behind him in the driver standings. So
All right. So you're saying
I
what
don't know.
Ferrari, Red
I
Bull?
think we could see a little bit of real life Formula One looking podium up there. Some Ferrari, Red Bull,
Mm,
two of one constructor, but
okay. How
an
about you?
honest prediction sees two Red Bull.
Okay. How about you, Ethan?
So I think Hudson, he was obviously winning by a lot last weekend, but he had that time penalty. So then
Mm,
Ian got that P2, he went down to P3. So I think Hudson definitely has a shot of winning this weekend again, and I think he wants to win after like falling down that far. I think Ian's gonna be hungry for a win as well. I think for right now, I see Hudson one, Ian two, and then Travis Robinson, who had a bad race at USA. The standings don't really reflect his pace, so I think he'll be back up top in the third podium position.
I agree, because yeah, you mentioned a good point. I mean, let's not forget about the Mercedes. You know, both Travis and Victor, absolute aliens. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna look to find um a better result here in Spa. So yeah, I mean, it's looking pretty tight. Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes up there. Let's see if if the midfield can also push for points. I know Alfa Romeo got a really good result in D3. That's points for you. So what what do you think the midfield is gonna look? Do you think we're gonna see some Alpine AlphaTauri fights? Are we gonna see Williams trying to push for midfield? What are your thoughts on that? Who do you think are gonna be the winners and losers of the race?
I think we're going to see both of the Alfa Romeos towards the upper half of the midfield. Don't mean to
Okay,
speak for the internal,
okay,
preach in the background here,
all right,
but we've been doing a lot of teamwork, a
that's
lot of
good.
team practicing here, trying to improve on consistency in terms of overall race
Hmm.
rather than just one lap speed.
Okay,
And I feel like we've got some strong drivers going into this weekend, all of the Ferrari Academy. But I can also see, as a little bit of a prediction, I can see Alpine taking a little bit of a suffering this weekend.
okay.
They're a little bit on the lower end, and and with it being earlier on, I could see maybe a little bit too hard of a push coming to try and make your way back up the field. So just a little
Perhaps.
bit of an oddball prediction, but I think Alpine may have an off weekend.
Okay. How about you, Ethan? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think McLaren will be winners this weekend. I think Ricardo will be back on pace because I mean he has the pace to win races. And
Does.
then PBJ, Spa's a track that's a lot on a lot of sims. It's a really popular track. He's a sim racer. He's played, I'm sure he's played Spa on other sims and stuff. And of course, F1's different, but like just the track knowledge that he has probably will help him get into the top 10.
Yeah. All right. Good. So you're hoping for a good show from McLaren for D1. That's good. All right. So there you have it, ladies and gents. Spa coming right up. It's gonna be tight race, tight action. You know these D1 drivers. One more thing. Quality predictions. What do you think the gap is gonna be from P1 to P20 drip?
Assuming it's going to be an all dry
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
session,
yeah, yeah. Yes.
I think it's going to be within a second and a half.
Within a second, okay, 1.5. How about you,
Yeah.
Ethan? What's the gap?
Don't necessarily know who's reserving. Looks like everyone's there,
I
so
think it's
I'm
full there.
I'd
Yeah.
I'd hope it's within a second. I think
Oh,
that's very doable. Spa's a track. Actually, it is longer track, so there's more. I'll say a second and 2/10.
okay. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Price is right.
It's
$1.
okay, okay. Because yeah, I mean, I would say also 1 second, but then again, like on the third sector on the bus stop is where is where lap time is made. So I don't know. I mean, it depends on how consistent D1 drivers can keep it. I mean, I know they can keep it pretty consistent, but still, I mean, there's lots of in-betweeners. I mean, do they break later? Do they break earlier and get more rotation speed? So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. So yeah, there you have it, ladies and gents. This has been pre-race show. Thank you, Ethan, for coming. As always, Drip, pleasure to have you here. So, ladies and gents, don't go anywhere because Division 1 Spa is coming right up.
Out. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We are here tonight for the fastest of the fast, the best of the best here in Zoom Racing League. It is Division 1 live from Spa Frankenchips. It is the Belgian Grand Prix. It is a historic track. The big run up through Sector 1, through the left-hander of Eau Rouge, the right-hander of Radion, into the first DRS zone, down the Kemmel Straight, into Bruxelles, down around through Speaker's Corner, No Name, the tricky technical second sector, and then down through Blanchimont, down to the bus stop chicane, and that is a lap around Spa. The drivers are going to be hitting it fast and furious and hard as they can. Historic track, typically a driver's favorite, can be rather dangerous depending on the conditions. It looks like we are in for a dry race tonight, though, Big Mama Frank. So I think the drivers will be happy about that, as we saw wet qualifying for Division 3 and then a dry qualifying for the other divisions this weekend. And so I think everyone's going to be very, very happy to see dry conditions to begin with. And we are in for 22 laps of racing. But first, the drivers have to qualify and see where they're going to end up.
Man, I'm a little disappointed we didn't get any rain for Div 1. I mean, we haven't, like you said, we only saw a little bit of rain in Div 3, and then the rest of them's been dry, so I'm just a little disappointed we didn't get any rain. It is Spa, Spa likes to rain in Belgium. Usually get pretty, like we saw last season where we didn't even get a race in real life because of the ridiculous amount of rain, but oh well, I'm sure the race will be a little bit better. But the novelty of rain is always nice.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's what we always call the great equalizer. I forgot to pull it up, but the points right now, if you are a fan of the Red Bulls, wow, you're real happy right now, because right now it is the Red Bulls, it is the AlphaTauris, as Chris Hannigan has a spin down into, is that Puhan? Very easy spot to spin. Yeah, that's Puhan right there. So that fast left-hander, kind of a double apex there. You've got to be very careful. You turn it in too early, touch a bit of that inside curb, and your car is going to be doing a little bit of a roundy round. Now he's into the more technical section as he comes through Campus 1 and 2 and finish out through Blanchimont and then the bus stop chicane. Chris Hannigan, one that really knows this track inside and out. In fact, the main reason I know most of these corner names is because Chris taught them to me, and so it felt like it was important to me to start learning them, learn a little bit about the history. Great historic track. Like I said earlier, a driver's track. We do have a new driver. Speaking of drivers who like the track, Eric McNerney last week was in the Alpine, and this week we welcome Blake into the Haas. New driver here in Division 1. Pilon had an issue with his transmission and is not going to be returning to Division 1 as Chris Hannigan starts a flyer here. So Big Mama Frank, it is almost 2 minutes a lap here. What, about a minute 39 to a minute 42 is probably about the times we're going to see for these drivers?
Yeah, we'll likely see really low 41s for pole. I'm sure that we have a few people that are capable of getting into the 40s in a single lap time, but what we've been noticing, particularly on this track, is that everyone's lap times have been quite a bit slower than their actual capability, just because it's Spa and you only get one shot per tire for the most part. So you really only have 3 shots per qualifying session if you want to burn all your softs.
Well, there's a high 41 early on from Hudson Pool. The Hudson Hornet is setting the bar really high already with that first set of tires. Chris Hannigan loses it into the barrier, loses the end plate, and invalidates to make matters even worse. And he lost that before he even he lost that coming out of No Name before he even got into Puhan. So not ideal for the McLaren driver as he's going to try to sort things out here. Ian Krager goes 42-2, 42-5 for Travis Robinson. Next across the line is going to be Damien, it looks like. Damien finishing up a lap here. 42-9, good enough for P5 to start. So Alfa Romeo with a strong early part of qualifying here, seeing a P5, P6 as the lap times start to come in. We're going to see next across the line, looks like Victor Diaz has not invalidated his lap, doing okay here. Where can he land? P3 with a 42.5, so only 4/10 off of Hudson Poole and 200ths off of his teammate Travis Robinson.
Yeah, these are really solid bankers. One thing I wanted to point out in these first laps we've had so far, Ian was a little bit faster than Hudson in both the first and second sector, but Hudson was faster by 4/10 in the second sector, so that's where all that time is. Oh no, Lee Hall crashed into the wall. I think he's still alive.
Bad times there. Kept the wheels on it. Front wing is gone, so he's going to be a bit of a hazard to the drivers behind him. John Ranger made it through safely. Still burning the ERS, so I guess he did a push here. Fuel light is not on, but let's see if he can improve that P11 from a 43.4. You don't know if he had a check up there. I assume Lee's car was ghosted, and yeah, John Ranger goes almost 7/10 faster up to P5. Out pips Duncan McCamick there in P6 as we see a Williams leaving the pit just ahead of John Ranger. Might be giving him a little bit of a tow there. Mercedes Power helping each other out potentially. Tow's a little bit difficult to set up here. You want to send your car out around the time that your teammate makes the left-hander before Blanchimont, and so that way they have time you have time to exit the pits as they're exiting the bus stop chicane, and you catch up each other on the Camel Straight.
Yeah, it can be really challenging, just because traffic can be an issue here. I mean, it's a big track, but what happens is people just kind of get bunched up right towards the end of the lap, and if you go out there and kind of mistime it, then you might impede somebody's lap and just, wind up with a penalty post-race. So also, the other thing is just because the track is so long, you have to be really efficient with your in and out laps. So if you waste time and you mess up a toe, or you waste time on a toe, you may burn up tires you may not want to, put a little bit too much wear on them for your own lap. So it can be a really big challenge to try to get a good toe here.
Looks like Colin Edwards is the second Williams. So the two Williams, as far as I can tell, are running together. Jordan Angus did invalidate. Jordan was the one that came out behind John Ranger there. So the two Williams sitting nose to tail there, separated by probably about 6 seconds right now. And so you probably want to cut that down to about 3 to 4 seconds max in order to get the benefit of the tow. Any further apart than that, I think you lose that big hole that's punched in the air.
And so kind of what we're seeing right here, we have Colin Edwards about to start his first flyer. There's so many cars on the track right in front of him that it just came out of the pit. So he's going to run right into all this traffic.
Ricardo T coming up to the bus stop chicane has invalidated his lap. Looks like he's got a Ian Krieger behind him potentially. No, Ian just left on an out lap as well. Is that Peter Giordano? And Peter goes into the pits. So Chris Hannigan on an out lap, about to start his lap again. So far has kept this lap valid. One of the unfun things, if you will, about this track is because it is so long. You make an early mistake, and it's just so long to get all the way back around the track. Particularly not just in this game, but in other games like in ACC. This is a 2-minute lap in a GT3 car, so that tells you how much faster. You're a full 20 seconds faster. That's how much faster an F1 car is compared to a GT3 car with that greater downforce, the lighter body, better aerodynamics all the way around. But yeah, it just takes forever and ever, it seems like, to get back around.
Yeah, it really does. And the other problem that comes around is just the tire wear. Like, if you do more than just, your standard just 3 laps, your out lap, your hot lap, and your in lap, then you're going to have a lot more tire wear to start the race. And that basically can knock off 1 or even 2 laps for your first stint, just in terms of tire wear. And it can make the first part of your race really difficult.
All right, and on Trivedi's finishing up his first time lap in P19, moves all the way up to P9 for the Haas driver. If you are Flossie, you got to be happy with that. It's a pretty good lap for the first banker lap, under a 43 as we see a McLaren exiting of Ricardo. Be picking up a little bit of close, almost dangerous lease there. No crossing of the line, so he'll be fine. So right now, your top 10, Hudson Poole, Ian Krieger, Victor Diaz, Travis Robinson, Jason Pelter, John Ranger, Peter Giordano, Duncan McCamick, Anand Trivedi, and Damian Doe. So really nice if you're Alfa Romeo, if you're Ferrari, if you're Red Bull, if you're Mercedes, to see all your cars up there. So Jack Pemberton sitting just on the outside as his teammate sits in P6, but top 10 is all pretty well dominated, just the exception of the Haas being in there, kind of throwing a little spanner in the works for the rest of the engine manufacturers.
Yeah, so far we don't have any AlphaTauri laps in yet, so that could be a concern. Honda's had kind of a weird weekend in terms of their AlphaTauris have struggled a little bit. None of them finished the D3 race, and then both of the AlphaTauri drivers in D2 had incidents. Even though Shaggy actually, qualified pole, he got damaged and had a spin, and just his race just kind of did not go the way he had hoped.
Not ideal, that's for sure. And speaking of not ideal, Chris Hannigan and Jack Fletcher, former ACC teammates in the Bentley over in Sim Racing Alliance, both back into the pits, both invalidated. Don't know if they both had damage as well, but they are both back into the pits. So we got a McLaren and a AlphaTauri not setting a lap. However, if you are Duncan McCamick, you're happy to see Lee Hall, the other Honda-powered driver. If you're OG, you're really happy because he's one you picked. Lee Hall up in P5 with a 42.6. Really good lap from him. Pushes Jason Pelter down and pushes Damian down out of the top 10. Ian Krieger goes fastest with a 41.9. We're going to see those times start to tumble down now and get to the mid 41s here within 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, we're just about to kind of about the end of the session in terms of everyone going out for the final stint. Should see everyone finish their laps now if they're on one, and then just go right back in and then try to go back out one more time.
All right, looks like we might have Travis Robinson. No, it's going to be Victor Diaz, our next one to set a time across the line. He's up almost 2/10 as he comes through the bus cop chicane. Look tight right-hander, tight left. Keep it off the curbs as much as possible. Use a little bit to rotate the car. Goes P4. Good run there from Victor Diaz. So right now it is Ian Hudson, Travis Victor, and Duncan McCamick in P5, split by the pair of Mercedes.
So one thing to kind of keep in mind for this race is every race we've seen so far in all 3 of the lower divisions, there's been a significant amount of people just making unforced errors, either by taking too much curb, going up roads wrong in the first sector, or just going down Puan and hitting the inside curb, or just putting too much throttle and steering in. So a lot of people are spinning on their own. We saw 4 safety cars in the D3 race. They were like back to back to back to back. It was wild. But in D2, even though we had quite a few people DNF, we still didn't have any safety cars. So it's really hard to gauge how many safety cars we're going to have, even though the settings are the same. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens, because these safety cars are really going to just shape how this race goes.
Well, speaking of safety, Jordan Angus felt safe there for a minute, moved it up into P12, and Eric McNerney said, no, sir, I'm going to put this Alpine in P9. Immediately goes down to P10 as Jack Pemberton jumps up into P9 in the the Aston Martin. No, that's Ricardo T moving up to P3. So we have a Ferrari, a Red Bull, a McLaren, the Mexican Wonder Kid, Ricardo is there, Travis Robinson, Victor Diaz. So Boat Boy in P1, currently his teammate Cape Cod down in P5. Peter Giordano splits the Mercedes of Travis Robinson and Victor Diaz. Duncan McCamick still on the outside looking at top 5 into P7. John Ranger, Jack Pemberton, P8, P9. Lee Hall, P9. Jack Fletcher on an outlap has got to do something here pretty quickly if he wants to improve his position at all. See who's going to be next across. Is that going to be Jordan Angus? Fully recharged the battery. It's flashing. He is going to be into the pits. So we're going to probably just take a look at Jack Fletcher as he is on his out lap. He's going to let's do a ride along here with Jack Fletcher from his POV. And Big Mama Frank, as he prepares those tires, if you'll keep an eye on the times and see if anybody else improves, let me know. We're going to go full cinematic just for a moment here as we come down the start-finish straight along the pit straight here. Going to break around the 100-meter board all the way down to 3rd here for Jack Fletcher through Stavelo. Long, hard run right here. Good overtaking opportunity if someone runs wide or has a bad And we're going to do a little history lessons here, folk. This is Eau Rouge into Radion. Radion is the right-hander. Up here to the top to Kemmel. This is the Kemmel straight. And this is our first DRS zone. And so this is going to be also a really good overtaking opportunity with that DRS train. Our drivers that are wanting to be up front are going to be running lower downforce. Brake just before the 50 down to fourth gear for Jack Fletcher. Right to the left, you want to compromise the exit so you get a good entry here. And then down here, we're going to take it wide to start, all the way down to about third gear and keep it tight, tight, tight. Late on the throttle, late apex. Now go, 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 go. Slight dab of the brakes here to the left, and we're going to come down. Take the Eat Sports line. Jack says no. I'm going to take the regular line, and we come down through Puhan. Brake about the 50, down 2 gears. Jack's going to hold it in 7th, actually. I'm thinking GT3 cars, folks. Hit the double apex perfectly here, and now through the quick technical section with the right, the left. You can mount a little bit of this inside curb here. Not that much, though, Jack Fletcher, as he spins it around, and that is going to be the end of that lap for Jack Fletcher. Disappointing for the AlphaTauri driver.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to set a time. He was, I think, only about 4/10 off of pole, so he probably would have put himself at least in the top 8, maybe, if he had been able to finish that lap in a strong way. But, yeah, really unfortunate. Now he has to start from the back.
It looks like no big movement, at least within the top 10. That's all stayed pretty well where it is. In fact, all the way down to P13, I don't see that much has changed at all. Victor Diaz on an out lap. Travis Robinson finishing up a lap. I'm sorry, he is just finished a lap, did not improve his time at all, so he will stay P4 in the Mercedes. Next across the line, looks like it's going to be Duncan. No, I'm sorry. Hudson Poole is going to be starting another lap here, trying to take that spot from Ian Krager.
These leaders just started their lap, so Travis did just start his lap. He just finished his out lap, so everyone is on their final push now.
Okay, so I guess he was just a little bit late turning the ERS onto the hot lap mode, as Travis actually goes fastest in the first sector with a 31.29. That is flying right now. He is quite a bit faster than everyone else at this point by about 0.02 of a second, as Anand Trivedi says goodbye and good night through Campus 1. That will be the end of his qualifying session in P14. Jack Fletcher in the pit is also done. Chris Hannigan finally sets a lap and goes P18 with a 43.3. Next across the line is going to be Victor Diaz, and Victor does improve slightly, but stays in P6. See, it'll be...
You were talking about, I think Red Bull actually just did what you mentioned before. I think Duncan actually just gave Hudson a tow down the Kimmel Straight, and now he's following him for his out lap.
Yep, that sounds like exactly what I would do. In fact, the way you set this up is actually, I learned that from Duncan.
Goes Hudson, he spun.
Hudson Poole, a little too much speed, little too much hurry up for the Hudson Hornet. Ian Krager looks like he is going to maintain pole unless Travis Robinson, Victor Diaz, or maybe even a Damien can do something here. Fastest lap, Ian Krager improves by 0.2 to go 41.7. Still riding on board there for some reason. Ricardo T is also on an out lap. He went quicker there. Victor Diaz retires from the session. Travis Robinson, what can he do here? Nothing. He has finished his lap. He will stay in P5. So your top 5, Ian Krager, Hudson Poole, Lee Hall, Ricardo T, Travis Robinson, Peter Giordano in P6, Victor Diaz, Duncan McCamick, Jason Pelter, and John Ranger round out your top 10. All of them will be stuck, I believe, on the soft tires. I'd be really shocked if anyone used mediums for that run. Yeah, everybody's setting laps on the soft. So while we're waiting on these guys to kind of finish up and see if anything improves for anyone who is currently on a lap, I gotta assume, Big Mama Frank, the strat here for the guys outside the top 10 is going to be try to go medium soft and try to overcut somehow. But for the top 10, they're all going to be on softs and go to mediums at the first pit stop.
Yeah, that's most likely what will happen. It is possible. The issue is because we've seen so many safety cars in every race but D2, it's really risky to go on those mediums just because you'll just get caught out and get stuck in traffic. You won't really be able to take advantage of having fresher tires at the end. But we'll see. I mean, we didn't see a lot of people go mediums in the D2 race yesterday. So most people were on softs. I know I was one of the maybe 3 people that did mediums in the bottom 10. So I do expect most people will go on softs even in the bottom 10 here.
See if Damien can improve his time from P12 here as he comes through the bus stop chicane and into the pits. Peter Giordano is slightly up on his time, or it's slightly quicker on this lap. Don't know if he's getting a benefit of the tow from the Williams in front of him, but he is up on his time, looking to take that spot from Travis. Would be good enough if he was able to maintain. He did not invalidate his lap. It looks like it's going to be P5 for Peter Giordano, and he actually goes P2, so it is a Ferrari front row lockout. Ian Krieger and Peter Giordano, the boat boy and Cape Cod, put it in front of the Hudson Hornet. Ricardo T is on P4. Lee Hall into the pit, stays P5. Travis Robinson is going to keep it in P6. Victor Diaz, P7. Duncan McCamick, P8. Jason Pelter, P9. John Ranger rounds out your top 10. The French-Canadian puts that Aston Martin just ahead of his teammate, Jack Pemberton. And that is it, folks. That is it for quali. And that is shocking. That is really well done at the last possible moment by Peter Giordano, who I thought was going to wind up being around P4 to P5. And it is a Ferrari front row lockout. And you know the Ferrari boys have to be absolutely over the moon and ecstatic right now.
Yeah, absolutely. This gives them a really opportunity to start fighting back in that Constructors' Championship that Red Bull has kind of dominated the first two races.
Yep, it's definitely a big deal for them. And the way those two finished out the season last time when they were both driving for Alpine, fighting all the way to the end. We know they're very quick. Peter's a two-time defending champion. Ian's got it in him to be a champion here as well. But there it is, folks. That is quali over. Everyone on the soft tires. Just 2/10 separates the Ferrari boys. 2/10 down to Hudson Poole. 3/10 to Ricardo and Lee Hall. Travis Robinson 4/10 back. Half a second behind for Victor Diaz. Duncan McCamick, just, I don't know. Did he have a sandbag in the back of that Red Bull? Why is he so much slower than his teammate in P8?
He only did one lap, and he didn't make it to the line when he tried. After they tried, there was kind of a disastrous last stint for Red Bull there. Hudson spun after getting the tow from Duncan, and then Duncan didn't make it back to the start-finish line before he started his final lap. So he only got to do one push lap.
All right, folks, we're going to take a little short break here as the drivers get ready to start the race. Already on the grid, ready for the formation lap. Now is your time. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a comment in the chat. Who do you think is going to win? Can the Ferraris hold on to that 1-2, or will strategy get the better of them? Will the Hudson Hornet and the madman Duncan McCamick be able to do something about it? Is it a comeback week for Mercedes? Let us know who you're pulling for in the chat. Want to say hello to JMO cheering for Haas and Mercedes, confusing me. Donnie 3 Putts, nice to see you. Buffalo Trace, I appreciate the comments. Alex Campbell, nice to see all of you guys. Jordan Brown says, let's go Hudson Hornet. Buzzgod says, comedical genius. Beamram W says, Spa Big Mama Franker champs. Got a little bit of a report potentially with some desync with Blake. We'll keep an eye on that. Play with JMO says Blake's definitely going to turn some heads. Well, yeah, especially if he's desynced and flying all over. It looks like we have forgotten to turn on. Okay, there it is. There's the formation lap. I saw the lights coming on. Got a little confused. So hey, you guys got about 2 minutes here if you want to run and grab yourself some tater chips and something cold to drink. Big Mama Frank, I've got my drink ready to go. I think we're going to have a lot of action here. Zax Max says, smelling an Angus podium. JGTV agrees. Jordan Angus is overdue for a really good result here. The Canadian works really hard, really good dude, and Williams is really lucky to have him back in Division 1.
That will be quite the push for him if he does make it a podium. 15 to a podium on this track, it would be a really big, would either be really lucky with a safety car or just a really impressive drive.
All right, taking a look at the tires here. AWS predicted pit stop strategy, soft to hard. That's not going to happen. Soft, medium. If there was a safety car, I could see that happening. But right now, only 4 runners on the medium tire. Jack Pemberton, Anand Trivedi in the Haas, Colin Edwards, and Jack Fletcher trying to do the last 2 points challenge. I say that we do give points for everyone that finishes the race here in Zoom Racing League. So, but still going to want to get a top 10. Going to keep both of the Honda Powers there near the top of the standings for the constructors and give himself a really good chance to be in that top 5 at the end of the season for the Drivers' Championship. But right now, it is Ian Krieger and Peter Giordano leading the pack around through the final sector to line back up onto the grid as Jack Fletcher is way behind right now. I don't know if maybe he had a little bit of a moment or he's just doing a little bit of extra tire prep, and maybe this is just a little bit of games to let the from the Honda garage to get the Ferraris to have to sit there just a little bit longer and cool those tires off, I hear.
Well, that's the thing with this game is once the AI takes over to set the formation, your tire temperature is actually locked. So no matter what they're at, they'll stay there until the race starts. So we do have that benefit. I'm really curious how it's going to work in the next game, since we do have the manual grids or the manual drive to grid slot thing now. I wonder how that will that work. I wonder, maybe we'll have what you're talking about, where the tires will start cooling once you're locked into your spot.
That would be incredibly interesting. All right, as the cars come around through the bus stop chicane, Ian Krieger on pole, looking to get a good start and a good jump. Going to give that slipstream to his teammate Peter Giordano, and they're going to need to make both those cars about 3.5 meters wide to hold off Hudson Poole and Ricardo here at the start. We've seen disaster here in turn 1 at Spa on more than one occasion. Typically with our D1 guys, it is not much of a problem, but anything could happen. We will ride on board with Lee Hall for the start of the race. There's 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights. They rev them up and they are off and away and racing. Really good start for Lee Hall. Got quite a jump there on Ricardo. He's going to follow his Honda powered teammate through, and nice, almost a little touch there from Hudson as he does take the spot from Peter. So it is Ian Krieger from Hudson Poole from Peter Giordano. Lee Hall, the Honda powers are making a really good jump here. Ricardo has dropped down the order. Chris Hannigan and Jack Fletcher have swapped spots at the back, and Entrevedi already down 2 spots on those medium tires as they come down the Kimmel Straight. Absolute great start. Doesn't look like anybody has any damage, and we are away and racing. Look at Jason Pelter trying to put the move on Travis Robinson here as they come through the first chicane, and it is wheel-to-wheel racing here through Sector 1. They keep it clean and nice and tight, and the drivers are settling down the order now. Eric McNerney up 3 spots. Tom Hotcap's down 2. Jason Pelter, the Gator, chopping already. Duncan McCamick dropping down the order down to P9. He and John Ranger battling back and forth, trading those 2 positions back, and we are away and racing here at Spa.
Right as you said, no one had damage, man. PBJ had front wing damage. So he's at the back of the grid now, and he'll have to pit at the end of this lap.
Well, it's not massive damage, but yeah, it's enough that he's gonna be feeling. He's already starting to fall back from the pack, but that's super disappointing if you're PBJ. You had a lot of struggle there in qualifying. PBJ is one of those guys like Jack Fletcher that can drive just about anything, and so you feel bad for that guy. He's really involved, really good, helpful teammate, really smart guy, and excellent broadcaster. You just hate to see something like that happen. If something bad like that was going to happen, you want it to happen to Ian Krieger or Peter Giordano.
Man, that's just rude, man.
All right, Hollis Henry says, what kind of name is Tom Hatcap? That's his actual name. Not all of our drivers use their real names, but he is one of them that does. Predicted pit stop strategy, both false. Ian Krieger goes fastest on the first lap because that's how it works when you start out in P1. So look at Hudson Poole, absolutely. Oh, a little bit of wheel spin there, a little wiggly wobbly action there. But really good starts from Hudson and Lee Hall to push Peter and Ricardo down a spot. Travis Robinson holding steady where he's at. Man, our biggest mover is Eric McNerney. He is a guy that likes to run a really low downforce, twitchy type of setup. So I think around Spa, even though this is a medium to high downforce track, depending on who you talk to, having that extra slipstream and being that much faster in a straight line, if you can control it through the technical parts, is going to be really helpful as long as you don't abuse your tires.
Yeah, one thing we kind of learned in practice was that your setup really doesn't affect your ability to race through the middle sector. What actually happens is in that final back straight on the second half in the third sector, that's where basically the setups are created. If you have too much downforce, you just lose way too much time on that back straight because there's no DRS. So that's why everyone has to run usually something like 6.4, 5.5, 7.5, really low downforce setups relative to other tracks. Because otherwise, if you don't, you just lose way too much time in that last sector.
Well, speaking of the last sector, they are into Sector 3 now. As they cross the line, DRS will be enabled here for Lap 3. We have a Damian Doe is spun around down in P19. Pardon me, does have a little bit of damage to his front wing, so that's going to be unfortunate for him. Jack Fletcher has DNF. Jack Fletcher is out of the session. We're going to ride on board with Damian and see if we can see Jack's car as he comes around here. A virtual safety car, so drivers will have to reduce their speed to about 60 seconds. Oh, Eric McNerney runs into the back of Duncan McCamick. That's a 5-second penalty for him. Both of those drivers into the pits. Why is Duncan going into the pits? Eric's going to have damage, obviously, but is Duncan going to the mediums early here and going to try to make them last 19 laps?
I think this is a really good opportunity for a really big undercut. And maybe potentially just play for another safety car, because runner VSC, he'll lose a little bit less time under the pits. So as long as everyone stays clean and everything stays as it is, when Ian and Peter decide to finally go into the pits, Duncan should be quite a bit in front.
All right, if we have anybody from the AlphaTauri garage or even Jack Fletcher wants to come up here and let us know what happened. It looks like he just lost it out of the second right-hander there. It's absolutely tragic and heartbreaking for one of the league favorite guys, just super nice guy. Damien still sat in the pits down in P19. That must have been some really bad damage. So we did have an absolute DRS train from P1 all the way down to P19. That is now broken with Duncan McCamick and Eric McNerney going into the pits. Anon Trivedi has now fallen almost 5 seconds back. He did not go into the pits as far as I could tell. So very interesting there that all that the virtual safety car should have bunched everybody up, given everybody a chance to breathe and relax, and should have maintained all those gaps. But that is not the case because we have one DRS train down to P9, and then it's all split. Jack Pemberton and Tom Hatcap have their own DRS train. Blake has Colin Edwards on his tail. But other than that, it is basically going to be a battle in this top 9.
So we actually are joined here by AlphaTauri's team principal, OG.
Howdy.
Campbell Lowry Hart, absolute heartbreak from one of the good guys in the league. Jack Fletcher had a real struggle in qualifying. We saw Lee Hall also spin in qualifying. Is this just a setup thing? What happened with Jack there? A little wheel spin on the exit?
Well, I think it's pretty clear to see that there's some form of tampering going on with the higher up teams. They were a little bit intimidated, terrified at the AlphaTauri these the first couple weeks of the season, and they had to put a stop to it. We've DNF'd in seemingly every race. But as for Jack Fletcher, this race, he's not at his usual setup. I know he's at his dad's house right now. Different pedals, different wheel. Last second setup change. He was busy throughout the week, so just not a lot of practice going on with Jack. He's just unable to. Real life takes over. We got Lee Hall, the next, our only AlphaTauri hope, as the rest of us have DNF'd. But just not a great week in AlphaTauri, and we'll get him back in Spain.
Well, fastest lap goes to Chris Hannigan, and while we were talking about that, Lee Hall made a couple of really good overtakes. He's all the way up into P3 and hunting down Hudson Pool. So you got two Honda-powered cars there in P2, P3. So all your hopes and dreams are on Lee Hall if you're if Campbell Lowry Hart or the AlphaTauri garage. And Lee really turned it on the last 2/3 of last season. He's been doing a great job so far this season. So do you think he's going to hold on to the podium here? I think the main thing he's got to worry about, and correct me if I'm wrong, is he tends to, as far as like the top 5, he tends to pick up penalties a little bit earlier than the other guys.
He does pick up a little bit of penalties, and we've seen, at least in the last couple of races, these guys are finishing pretty close. They finish in pods, but those pods, they're separated by a second, so those penalties could hurt him. But we saw uncharacteristic penalties from people in Division 3, Division 2 as well, so I wouldn't count out, maybe he may be more penalty prone than the rest of them, but this is not our week, but it's his week. He's not going to get any penalties. Everyone else will. That's my call.
All right, OG, thanks for stopping in. A little bit of a rough race for you. Is there anything that you learned in Division 3 that you're going to be able to help out Lee Hall with here?
No, Lee Hall's a much better driver than I am. If anything, I gotta learn from him. Yeah, dude, that was a rough. I don't want to talk about it. It was a rough race, rough day on Saturday.
Understood. Well, hey man, go relax, go cheer your driver on, and we will talk to you later, buddy.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, Blake sets the fastest lap there in the Haas. We'll take a look here at the tires, and that's fastest lap, idiot. We want our interval still. And so tires, yeah, so Jack Pemberton, 4-lap old mediums. Duncan and Eric McNerney did slap on the mediums, as did Damien. Chris Hannigan went from the mediums to the softs and had the fastest lap there for a little bit, but currently in possession by Blake, as Jack Pemberton and Tom Hatcap swapping positions there. Tom should be a little bit quicker on those softs right now, but Jack Pemberton's tires will continue to come in. He's still in a good position as Victor Diaz and Jason Pelter swap positions there. Victor Diaz did disconnect from the session. I don't know if he is still in it. Jason Pelter is complaining about some desync. The Gator little bit of a ways back. I don't even see, I barely see the cars in front of him. Yeah, if you can join the call and let us know what's going on, we'd like to hear from you as well, Buffalo Trace. What's going on there in the Alfa Romeo of Gator? Got a yellow flag for, it looks like a Haas potentially. Don't know what that was. Maybe that was just a localized ghost yellow.
I believe Beamer may have had a moment because Duncan gained a lot of time on him in the last sector.
Travis Robinson into the pits after 4 laps. Did he have damage? No. He is going in a little bit earlier than I would have expected for my favorite Canadian. Let's see if we can find him. No damage there, no wing chains. Goes on to the medium tires, trying the undercut strategy. Can he come out ahead of Duncan McCamick and Eric McNerney? The answer is no, because Duncan McCamick just goes fastest with a 46.0 on the mediums. So 2 other people had already set a fastest lap on the soft tires. Duncan does it on the mediums as Travis does a little wheel spin, little drift in action out of the pit exit there. Eric McNerney goes faster with a 45.9.
So it is a little bit beneficial that he's close. He's close to Duncan, but the problem that he has with Duncan is that those 2 cars have DRS, and it's possible he may not be able to close it up in time. But he was so far back in the pack compared to the leaders. His only real option, if he wanted to try to take those positions, is an undercut at this point. It's really hard to overtake on this track unless you have a significant tire advantage. Oh, it looks like we lost PBJ.
Oh, PBJ out of the session. Is that going to trigger a safety car? That is in Radion. He did lose it in Radion. So full safety car advantage to the top 5. Ian Krager, Hudson Poole, Lee Hall, Ricardo, Peter Giordano, about 6 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack. So they can go ahead and come in for those mediums now. Try to finish out the race. 16 laps is nothing on a set of mediums here. Should be easy peasy for those guys. If you're Jack Pemberton, do you go ahead and come in now, maybe strap on a set of hards because you know the softs aren't going to make it, and then take advantage of the safety car, even though you're going to have a lot of folks around you on better tires?
Yeah, it's just disastrous for the people who tried to undercut. So for Travis and Duncan in particular, now they're just going to be stuck behind everybody.
So Radion has claimed its first victim, PBJ. Don't know exactly what happened there. Maybe we can hear a little bit from him, but those curbs are deadly. They're super slick in this game. So into the pits, Ian Krager, Hudson Poole, Lee Hall, Ricardo, Peter, Jason Pelter, John Ranger. Jack Pemberton does stay out. Everyone else comes in. So Jack is going to go ahead and ride the strategy. He's going to do what he has to do. He's going to be at a slight disadvantage in a couple of laps. 6 laps isn't much on those mediums, but he's going to have to pit again. So Jack Pemberton, Jordan Angus, Jordan Angus and Blake are back in. So very busy pit road right now. Everybody coming in except for Eric McNerney, Damien. Even Duncan McCamick went in and strapped on a new set of mediums and maintains P15 there. Travis Robinson up to P9. So resetting our order here, Jack Pemberton from Ian Krager, Hudson Poole, Lee Hall, Ricardo, Peter Giordano, Jason Pelter, John Ranger, Travis Robinson, and Victor Diaz round out your top 10. Everyone on fresh mediums except for Jack Pemberton there in the top 10. Hey, folks, while the safety car leads them around here on a little non-victory lap, I want to make sure that you like and subscribe. Give us a comment in the chat. Let us know who you think is going to win. Can Eon hold on here? The top 10 all on the same strategy. Actually, on the everybody down to P13 on the same strategy. So is Ian going to start feeling the pressure from Hudson? Can Lee Hall do something? Will Ricardo return to his old form? And Peter Giordano's got a lot of time to make up here from his start in P2. Let us know in the chat. We're going to take just a moment, let the cars kind of drive around, and we'll holler at you guys in just a moment. All right, folks, we are back. To put a new poll up in the chat, probably should have done it on my phone so you could, I don't know, watch the cars drive around and do not much of anything. Everybody ending up on a fresh tire. So a new poll up. Who wins the race? Will it be the Boat Boy Ian? Will it be the Hudson Hornet? Or are you taking someone from the field? Could it be Lee Hall? Could it be Ricardo? Could it be Jason Helter? Could it be Peter Giordano? Could it be the Aston Martin of John Ranger? Or will the Mercedes boys be able to work something together here down in P9, P10? Are we going to see a Duncan McCamick comeback? Little McCamick magic here at the end. Can Blake, the newcomer, show us what he's made of? Vote in the chat. Let us know, or vote in the poll and let us know in the chat what you think. BuzzGod says Ricardo. Campbell says boat boy. Crying, laughing emoji. I don't know how else to describe that.
I think one thing that's a little bit unfortunate is the safety car basically robbed us of any strategy. So everyone except for Jack Pemberton likely intends to finish the race on these tires, and maybe Beamer also, or Anand, excuse me. But so it's just going to be kind of DRS training and people just trying to manage their battery before they attack at the end.
So interesting to see Thermo in the chat cheering for Ian. Thermo left Ferrari powered Haas and is now in the Aston Martin. So Joel Guron may want to take a look at that and see why his driver is cheering for another engine manufacturer. A little bit of drama, maybe a spy in the works there in Division 2. Big Mama Frank, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
Of course not. Dude, time for another trade, man. Trade him to Williams.
Just trade him every week. There goes Joel Guron at WTF Thermo. Thermo loves Ian. BuzzGod calls him a traitor. Joel says, come on, man. Still waiting to see if we're going to hear from anybody in the McLaren garage. Maybe tell us what happened with Chris Hannigan. Also would love to hear from, love to hear from Buffalo Trace and see what was going on with the desync there.
Travis just spun.
Oh, no. That is disastrous. Did he pick up any damage? It doesn't look like it, but that is less than ideal for Mercedes. So Victor Diaz has lost the benefit of his teammate safety car in this lap. So, Travis Robinson, that is not what we want to see in the Mercedes garage.
Oh man, he had he kind of came back out right behind his teammate, or right in front of Victor actually. So he was able to recover okay from the safety car compared to Duncan, who did pit again. But dang man, that must be really frustrating.
So the defending champion, the former Red Bull, now Mercedes driver, hasn't had the best of seasons. I'm not disappointed in Travis by any means. I think he can still make up a lot of stuff here. It's not going to be ideal going forward, but I think he's going to make a pretty decent recovery here. All right, so Jack Pemberton is back to pack up. He's come through the bus stop chicane. Safety car is in, and Jack Pemberton is away and going. Oh, and Duncan McCamick picks up a 5-second penalty for a severe collision with Blake. Duncan McCamick knows all too well the dangers of following too closely under the safety car, and he gets hit in the back. Duncan McCamick into the pits, and Anand Trivedi into the pits. Does Duncan have wing damage? Why is he in the pits again?
Yeah, they both have damage. Both Anand and Duncan have damage.
So Duncan goes ahead and serves the penalty, also getting the replaced wing. He is not going to be happy about that. So Travis Robinson, on the other hand, picking up 2 spots in that travail. Hudson Poole trying to go around the outside, back to the inside, side by side, wheel to wheel through here. Ian barely keeps it ahead as they come down through Bruxelles. They are absolutely neck and neck, side by side, advantage to Ian up the inside, but Hudson is not done yet. As we go through speakers, No Name Corner is going to be advantage there to Hudson Poole. Ian Krieger not taking the esports line like he typically does through Puhan. Jack Pemberton's actually gotten away pretty good here. Hudson Poole is beginning to catch it back up as those two were battling back and forth. If you're Jack Pemberton, you started to see that 1 second gap and you got to be happy, but now you're watching it drop as Hudson Poole is hungry and out for blood.
Yeah, the tire advantage is a big thing here. Also, it's just Jack doesn't want to push too hard, because he just needs to try to get these tires to last as long as possible and hope for a safety car.
So 1 VSC and 1 safety car so far. Folks, let us know in the chat. Do you think there'll be another safety car? Division 1 typically, actually Division 3 historically has been our lowest safety car, as Duncan McCamick picks up a second warning for track limits. So he is going to have to be very careful here as he tries to push on those soft tires. Typically, we don't see more than 1 safety car as Gator goes fastest with a 45.9, almost 45.9 flat, 1,000th over. But typically, we don't see a lot of safety cars here in Division 1. Division 3's typically been our cleanest, as Eric McNerney goes half a second faster than Gator that just set that a moment ago. So it seems unlikely we'd see another safety car. And as I say that, they're all coming through Eau Rouge and Radillon, and that's going to be the place where people try to push a little too hard and lose it.
It's possible. So far, we haven't seen anyone. I don't think we've seen anyone have too much of an issue with that so far. It's usually in the second sector where we've seen people push a little bit too hard. But I mean, I might be speaking a little too soon because we may just those mistakes may just not have happened yet.
Duncan McCamick running all by his lonesome down in P18, riding on bull with the Red Bull driver. Hopefully doesn't push too hard here. Makes it through El Rouge and Radion just fine down the Kimmel Straight, trying to make up that time to Anand Trivedi, who is a full 4 seconds ahead, but that time is dropping as the soft tires begin to do their work. Let's jet back up front. Hudson Poole is caught back up to the Jack Pemberton. Aston Martin 3/10 behind him, so in less than a lap, made up almost 7/10 of a second. Hudson Poole is doing a good job pushing here, staying close behind Jack. Jack needs not to fight too much here because he's not in this. Peter Giordano is out of the session. The Ferrari driver is out. He has absolutely lost it. He has bent it out through Campus 2. And is that going to be another safety car? It doesn't look like it. The rest of the field is through. Duncan McCamick picks up his third warning and a 3-second time penalty. So already 8 seconds of penalties for Duncan McCamick down in P18 as he gets around Peter Giordano. He'll move up into P17. DRS is re-enabled after the safety car, so this will be the time that Hudson Poole needs to make his push. Ian Kreger has now lost his teammate. Lee Hall in P4 has lost his teammate. Ricardo T in P5 has lost his teammate. So what can these folks do here as DRS is enabled as we go through Eau Rouge, up through Radion, onto the Kimmel Straight? What can Hudson do? And can Ian stay behind him? Hudson with the advantage of the DRS. Jack Pemberton parking it in the middle of the track. He's going to go to the left side. Is Hudson Poole. He's going to break a little bit later, try to go down the inside, and he will get that move done and firmly plants Jack Pemberton in between himself and Ian Kreger. So it's going to be an advantage to Hudson Poole here, who will not be held up by Jack Pemberton. Ian Kreger is going to be itching to get around him just as fast as he can here.
Yeah, we might be seeing from Duncan here, or not Duncan, excuse me, Hudson, is he might push pretty hard here on this lap, maybe try to create a gap between him and Jack to try to break the DRS, just try to build a gap between he and Ian. So far, he's already got over a second, so let's see how much he can build that before Ian gets in front of Jack.
Here, Ian, you've got to do something here pretty quick because you've got to close that gap up. You need that DRS. And maybe if you're Ian, you just sit behind Pemberton right now and wait to get that DRS and use that to sort of launch yourself to try to make up that gap to Hudson.
Yeah, that's absolutely something that you can do. You gain so much time with DRS relative to not. It's like in the tenths, like 3 or 4 tenths potentially down that main straight with DRS. So Hudson has to push really hard to keep that gap up.
Hearing word from Labib that Ian is raging in voice chat. I don't know if that's actually true. I believe if I was one of the two of them, if I was angry and upset, I'd be more upset if I'm Peter Giordano. Lee Hall, absolutely. And trailer as Jack Pemberton goes into the pits. And that will actually negate the DRS for Ian Kreger since Jack went in. So advantage to Hudson Poole with almost a 2-second gap here. Lee Hall is going to have the advantage of the DRS and probably get around Ian. Ricardo going to do his best to follow him through. Jason Pelcher, the Gator, in P5. Also in that DRS train.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised Jack went in there, but I also understand it. He just stopped hoping for the safety car. But yeah, that must be so frustrating for Ian. The last lap and a half has just been an absolute disaster. But he's pushing, and here goes Lee Hall passing him.
So there's the move done. The DRS doing its job for Lee Hall. Duncan McCamick goes fastest with a 44.9, getting closer and closer down to the qualifying times. Won't actually see a qualifying time in race trim, but it's cool to see those guys going so fast. Travis Robinson all the way up to P12. He was down in P19, folks, or P18, folks. So good moves there from Travis Robinson trying to make up some of those spots. Now, part of that was Jack Pemberton going to the pits. Part of that was Duncan McCamick and Anand Trivedi going back into the pits. But either way, it's nice to see the Mercedes driver recovering. Victor Diaz still sitting well in P7. Got a little bit of a push behind him from Tom Hatcap. But if Victor can keep that push up, he can keep the DRS on John Ranger, and he breaks the DRS on Tom Hatcap.
Well, I was going to mention one small advantage there for Ian and Lee was that Lee was able to close up a lot of time to Hudson, but Hudson's keeping that interval up, so he's still outside of DRS range. Lee's using a lot of battery on this back straight just to kind of close that gap.
All right, so here they come through Blanchimont down to the bus stop chicane. So everyone is going to have DRS this time around. Hudson Pool leads by 8 tenths, 6 tenths for Ian Krieger, 4 tenths for Ricardo, 6 tenths for the Gator. John Ranger just outside, 2 tenths there. Victor Diaz will have a DRS on John Ranger and potentially get that move done. 9 tenths is kind of far back. You want to be within about 4 tenths to be able to make that overtake on the Kimmel Straight, but it is a long straight, and depending on how much rain you're running, might be able to make that 9 tenths stick. So take a look here and see what's going to happen. Lee Hall, can he catch that car up to Hudson Pool? It looks like Hudson has actually pulled a little bit more gap there through Eau Rouge and Radion, but now we're going to watch it drop. There's 1 tenth gone, almost 2 tenths gone, 3 tenths gone as he slowly sucks up to the back of his fellow Honda-powered Red Bull.
Well, the big thing for Lee and for Ian here was, as long as they're in that DRS, Lee can kind of, the DRS will be his defense from anyone behind him. If he's not in that, then they're just going to keep swapping and potentially losing time. So as long as they're in that DRS of Hudson, then Hudson isn't going to be able to just pull away.
Oh, disaster for Alfa Romeo's Jason Pelter right there in the thick of things, and P5 picks up a 3-second penalty. And so if you are John Ranger, you love to see that ahead of you, because that means you're going to pick up another spot if you can keep that within 3 seconds. Anon Trivedi and Duncan McCamick finally caught up to one another, it looked like, and Duncan actually lost out that spot to Anon, so probably get him on the next time around. He should have the advantage here on the tires, at least for a couple more laps until he has to come back in. Don't think those softs are going to make it all the way to the end. Travis Robinson picking up a 3-second time penalty, and he's out, and the Mercedes driver is out. So safety car, it is a full safety car, so if you're Duncan McCamick, you got to come back in, but everybody else has to stay out at this point, right?
Most likely, yes. We'll see, though. I mean, I think in most cases, I think most of the leaders will stay out. Oh, Hudson's going in. Oh, now everyone's following him because Hudson went in.
Hudson, Lee, Ian Krieger, all into the pits. Jason Pelter stays out with a 3-second warning, or a 3-second penalty. So we're going to have about 7 laps to go. Hudson goes onto the softs, Ricardo onto the softs, Lee Hall onto the mediums, John Ranger onto mediums, Victor Diaz onto a set of softs. So Jordan Angus, Jason Pelter, and Eric McNerney all stay out. Jason Pelter with that 3-second time penalty. So Hudson, Ian, Ricardo, Victor, Tom Hatcott, Blake, and Colin Edwards, Damian Doe, all going to be a lot quicker here. Jack Pemberton has come into the pits. He only has 1 lap on the softs. You would think he would stay out. That 1 lap isn't going to make a huge difference. Oh, Lee Hall, big time penalty there for the AlphaTauri driver. 3-second penalty on those new medium tires. So he's going to have the disadvantage of slightly slower tires, and now a 3-second penalty. We called it earlier. We were talking to OG. He is one of the leaders that is quickest to pick up that first penalty. And there it is, folks. Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Man, this Hudson is actually in a pretty solid spot. I mean, when he went into the pits, it's a pretty coin flippy thing. If he's the only one that goes in and everyone else stays out, then suddenly he's in like P13 or something behind a bunch of people on mediums, and he has a ton of time to make up to try to win the race. But now that he's in front of Lee and Ian, and Lee is on these mediums, if Lee can stay in front of Ian at the safety car restart, Hudson might be in a really, really beneficial spot for the end of this race.
Yep, for sure. And if you're Duncan McCamick, you're trying to get a word over to Lee Hall to make that car as wide as possible. You want to hold off Ian Krieger, and you got to worry about Ricardo there. Ricardo on fresh stops is nothing to play with. I believe he started the race in P5.
One thing with kind of the Honda synergy here is Lee just kind of does his own thing. He's just in his own world doing his own thing. He's just kind of an independent driver. So he won't be taking any orders from anybody at any point, even if it's coming from Duncan.
Fair enough. So the pack will get a chance to get caught back up. Duncan McCamick typically faster than the next 4 drivers in front of him, but they're all going to be on the exact same tire strategy, so it's going to be very difficult for him to make up points here. So all your money, if you're in the Honda garage, is on Hudson Pool. Victor Diaz, if you're riding Mercedes, the only one left there. So big disappointment there as we've lost Travis Robinson, our defending champ. Oh, it's Hudson Pool nearly overtakes Eric McNerney under safety car. Not an ideal situation there, as they're going to go around one more time.
Yeah, so pointing out Duncan's penalties earlier is pretty big, because now even if he does make up a lot of time, make up a lot of positions behind this or through this final stint, people are still going to be close enough to be able to overtake him with those penalties. So we do have quite a few people in the back with 2 warnings right now. Everybody but in the bottom 7, everyone has at least 1 warning, except for Anand Trivedi, who has 0 actually.
Taking
But
a
back
look.
up towards the front, we have Ian with 2 warnings. Hudson and Jordan Angus are the only leaders right now with 0 warnings, so that could come into play also towards the end.
That's absolutely huge to drive a clean race like that. Going to our poll on the YouTube's chats, 41% say Boat Boy's going to win, 14% cheering on the Hudson Hornet. 45% of you say someone older and better, and I assume by that you meant Travis Robinson, and that is not going to be the case. Unfortunately for the Mercedes driver, he is done for the weekend, so gonna go put on his snowshoes and go for a hike or whatever they do there in Vancouver.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, just because Jordan Angus and Eric are on, a different tire strategy than the rest of everyone, if they can maintain that 3-car DRS train and keep Hudson behind, both of those guys are have a really good opportunity to win this race, even with these different tire strategies. It's really hard to overtake on this track because you have to do it. Everyone will have to be overtaking people with DRS in front of them, so it's going to be a really big challenge, but it is still possible.
So if you're one of these drivers that is sort of mid-pack, say Ricardo, John Ranger, Tom, Victor, Blake, do you play it conservative here and just try to stay close, or is this like an all-out 6-lap sprint for you?
I think you might be a little more conservative if Lee Hall was on softs, but because Lee Hall's on mediums, that's the kind of potential. That's the place where we might see a gap form between the 2 trains. So it's going to be really important for those 2 people behind, particularly Ricardo and Ian, to get past him. So they're going to be sending it on these first 2 laps after the safety car comes in.
All right, here we go, folks, as they enter into Sector 3. Coming down through Blanchimont, you get to see the absolutely spectacular view of the Belgian Alps here at Spa Frankenchips. Tricky left-hander right here for a lot of the drivers. Depending on how you've got it set up, you can lose it if you take too much of this inside curve. Drivers weaving, dragging their brakes, trying to get every bit of temperature you can, especially in those medium tires. They're going to be a lot less grippy here at the restart than the softs. Jason Pelter doing a good job backing them up, letting the safety car get all the way onto pit road as he comes through the bus stop chicane. And let's see what kind of jump the Gator can get. And the Gator is holding them up still. He's going to wait till the line, trying to play a little game here. Good job by Gator, and they're away. Eric McNerney takes a spot from Hudson Poole. Hudson temporarily was there. Ian Krager overtakes Lee Hall side by side. Lee Hall still has the spot temporarily. Ian Krager looks to be ahead as we make it down the GT3 pit road here to the left-hander of Eau Rouge, up the hill through Radion, through the Camel, into the Camel Straight. Damien Doe in the Alfa Romeo. 3-second time penalty. Victor Diaz takes it down the inside of Lee Hall, and those medium tires are not doing their work. Ricardo also makes it through, so Lee Hall all the way down from P3 early in the race down to P8. John Ranger still on his tail. Jack Pemberton makes it through on Damien Doe, so it's Jason Pelter, Eric McNerney, Jordan Angus down to P3 from P2. Hudson Poole, and an absolute send around the outside from John Ranger. Sends it around the outside of Lee Hall. We do have a yellow flag there in Sector 2, but a really nice move around the outside there from John Ranger. He is chomping at the bit to make up some spots. Here is the French Canadian.
Yeah, now it's up to Ian. Can Ian make the same move and get past Jordan Angus also?
Nice pack here, side by side as Duncan McCammon gets through Damien Doe. Colin Edwards running out really wide there for Puhan, and we got a lot of pushing, got to be careful here. And Lee Hall continues to drop down the order on those medium tires. Lee Hall from P5 of the race all the way down to P15. Don't see that it has any damage. It looks like Tom Hatcap.
Yeah, no front wing for both him and Colin Edwards, so their race is basically done at this point.
What an absolute disaster if you are AlphaTauri, if you're Colin Edwards. Tom Hatcap just falling further and further back with that damage. Tom Hatcap is going to be done there in the Alpine.
But back towards the lead, Hudson got past Eric McNerney and Ian got past Jordan Angus, so the battle's still on for the lead here.
All right, here comes Ian Krager. Can he dispatch Eric McNerney here? DRS will not be enabled for one more lap, so you got to do it on your own, on your strategy, on your battery. Don't want to burn too much because you still have another 5 laps to go after you complete this one. But Ian Krager sucked up real nice to the back of Eric McNerney. A little bit of a wide entry into Rouge in through Radion. Runs a little bit wide on the exit. Eric McNerney kept it nice and tight there. Ian Krager on the battery, going to have the advantage of the slipstream. Duncan McCammon picks up another 3-second time penalty here. Can Ian Krager get get this job done around the outside of Eric McNerney, and he does, and now he's got his sights set on Hudson Poole. We have a yellow flag in Sector 1 for Jack Pemberton. The Canadian driver has lost his front wing, so the goalie having the goal of trying to finish the race with no damage. Not well defended there.
Jason Pelter just ghosted, and Hudson just drove through him, so I'm not sure what happened there, but it looks like he's still in control.
3-second time penalty for Colin Edwards, multiple warnings for him. So another penalty there. Tom Hatcap into the pits, coming back out now, and a race basically over for Tom Hatcap. Jason Pelter still within DRS range, as is Ian Krager. Got a good DRS train. Ricardo's got to be careful here. He is outside that 1 second, so he's got to do a pretty good push here if he's going to have DRS as he makes it here through Blanchimont down to the bus stop. He's got to suck up quick. Another 3-second time penalty for John Ranger, the French Canadian, in P8. That's going to come into play. Duncan McCamick's made it all the way up to P10 here.
Yeah, he does have the 6 seconds of time penalties, though, so he'd still fall back down to P12, I believe, at this point. But looking at that gap, though, Hudson is really close. He's outside of DRS right now, Jason Pelter, which means Eden's going to have to slingshot around Jason Pelter. We have another yellow flag. Oh,
So-
Lee Hall.
Lee Hall has DNF'd. DRS just becomes enabled, and it's Lee Hall. Play the spoiler. That is it for AlphaTauri's weekend. Ends in sadness and tears. So very disappointing for Campbell, Larry Hart, and the rest. SRL Spirits. Yeah, we are a PC-based North American F1 league. Description to the Discord is in the comments. Please join us. Come on in, even if you don't want to drive right away. We also have an Xbox division that's starting up right now. Brandon Cushy 43 will be starting that as an entree, and Jack Pemberton going to the pits. Another set of softs and another wing change for both of them. But up front, Hudson Poole, nearly a 1 second gap over Ian. Ian's going to have to keep that tight because the DRS is spectacularly powerful here. Top 6 have a 2 second gap over Jordan Angus. Those older mediums not doing their work right now. Eric McNerney picks up a 3 second time penalty in P5. Victor Diaz should get around him pretty easily here on the inside of Puhan. Really nice move there from Victor Diaz, but Eric McNerney is not going away easily. He will not go quietly into that gentle night. But Victor does get the move done, and now he has got some time to make up as he is nearly a 1.5 seconds behind Ricardo in P4.
Yeah, while we were looking towards the back, Ian did get by Jason Pelter, but he is in DRS range of Hudson. So now it'll be an interesting battle here just between who can save the most battery for the final lap.
All right, so it is no longer down to tires. It is down to maintaining your battery. Jason Pelter, no battery left. As an absolute send from Ricardo T. Goes down the inside of the bus stop chicane, and he's going to come out ahead. He's going to also have the DRS, so he's going to be able to make up a huge gap here to Jason Pelter. Victor Diaz, can he get the job done as well? As Ian Krager goes fastest, 0.6 back from Hudson Poole, 1.3 seconds back to Ricardo T. Can he use any of that advantage of the DRS? No, he will not close up that gap enough. As we come through the next detection zone, through Eau Rouge, through Radion, Ricardo more than a second behind. He will not have the DRS and will not be able to make up that gap to Ian Krager. Victor Diaz still putting the work in on Jason Pelter. Jason doing a great job, running a really good race. It's been awesome to see Jason's growth here as we have a yellow flag in Sector 1 and 2. It looks like a Aston Martin, potentially, of John Ranger. A little bit further back might have been Jack Pemberton.
Yeah,
that's gonna be Ranger.
John Ranger has no front wing. Duncan has a little bit of wing damage.
Yep, absolutely heartbreak. Seeing Mr. Sandunga and Campbell Lowry Hart both in the chat. AlphaTauri will bounce back. Yeah, we absolutely believe it. You've got a pair of incredible drivers there. Just a really rough weekend. Really unexpected for both of them. You can always count on Jack Fletcher to be somewhere in the top 5, top 7. Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable. Lee Hall has been an absolute monster about the last 10 races. Really surprised to see him DNF. It's been a very long time since Lee Hall's had a DNF. Certainly one that is not induced by another driver. So, yeah, we'll definitely see the AlphaTauri boys coming back stronger. Victor Diaz maintaining that gap very well here to Jason Pelter as they come through the bus stop chicane into the first DRS zone on the pit straight. Can Victor Diaz get the move done before turn 1 as they come down into Stavilo? Victor Diaz maintaining that gap. DRS didn't do anything for him there, but the Camel Straight is where the DRS is the most powerful.
Yep, Ian is close enough to take this position for Hudson, so let's see how much battery Hudson decides to use here, or if he just decides to give the position up.
And speaking of which, we haven't really mentioned him much here lately, but a really great job today from Blake. Oh, a little bit of contact. Victor Diaz runs into the back of Gator there as the two of them were trying to decide who was going to go which way. And Victor gets the move easily done. The problem for that is he's 1.7 seconds out of the podium positions here. So you're relying on Hudson, Ian, or Ricardo to pick up a final warranty. Actually, it'd just be Ian or Ricardo picking up a final warning because Hudson Poole driving an absolute banger of a clean race here. No warnings yet, so no worry about a penalty with 2 1/3 laps remaining.
So we still have a lot of people with 2 warnings towards the front. Both Ian, Ricardo, and Victor all have 2 warnings, so that could determine who gets the final podium spot.
Absolutely, and let's don't count Blake out of it yet. Blake putting on an absolute show for his first race here in Zoom Racing League. Now he's 2.4 seconds back from Eric McNerney and Jason Pelter. Both of them have 6-second penalties. Or I'm sorry, 3 seconds for Pelter, 3 seconds for McNerney. So Blake's going to promote into P5 for sure. But what can he do about closing up that gap to Victor Diaz? He's been doing a great job. Let's ride on board here for a little bit with the Haas driver as he tries to close up that gap here. Keeping an eye on Ian Kreger as well within 0.4 of a second. Actually, folks, I'm sorry to do this. We're going to jump back up front because this is too important to potentially miss as Ian Kreger might be able to get this move done on Hudson Poole. Ian's got to be very careful here, though, because if he picks up that penalty, that is goodbye podium, and that is not ideal when Ferrari only has 1 car left in the race. Red Bull still commanding the Constructors' Championship right now, and they have both cars in the race.
And Hudson has quite the battery advantage right now. Surprised he's not using more right now, since he probably doesn't have enough time to use all of that battery, but he might be trying to let Ian go by.
So JMO, the Mercedes junior team driver that we're going to try to get in very soon into a couple of races here, making a good point here. Let's look at the position changes. So Blake up 10 spots all the way down into, or all the way up into P7. Jordan Angus making up 7 spots all the way into P8. Good showing for Williams here. If you're Ryan Zero, you got to be really happy about that. Jason Belter up 4 spots. Eric McNerney up 8. Colin Edwards also up 8. So the Alpines doing really good work here. The Williams doing really good work as well.
Yeah, the safety car definitely benefited a few of those people that started on mediums.
Oh, sorry about that,
That
folks.
stayed out behind the safety car. But so we're in the time now where Hud's just gonna keep the battery on until the race is over. So let's see how much of a gap he can build before this DRS straight down the Kimmel Straight.
All right, 1 1/16 of a lap to go as we come through the bus stop chicane for the next to a final time. 0.6 of a second is the gap from P1 to P2. Ricardo right now just outside of that DRS range. Does he have DRS down the main straight? He does, but he has burned through a lot of battery. Only 6% battery remaining. Big battery advantage as Victor Diaz moves up into P4. Eric McNerney and Jason Pelter having a little bit of a go at one another right here. Eric McNerney with the advantage there. Blake has cut that 2.5 second lead down to 1.5 seconds. So if he keeps up this push right now, he's going to make that even without the penalties the way he's pushing here on the final lap. The best opportunity for an overtake, though, is the boat boy Ian Kreger trying to make this final push against Hudson Poole. Only 1 more DRS zone to his advantage. No battery advantage. So right now, it looks like with 0 warnings for Hudson Poole, it is going to be easy Honda dominance this weekend in P1 as Ian, again, kind of surprised. I know he does it in quali. He's not doing it in the race, taking that esports line where you keep those right side tires on the AstroTurf. It'd be interesting to see in the next game. Apparently that AstroTurf does not have the grip that it has in this game, so it's going to change a lot of driver styles here. So it'd be interesting to see some guys that are really quick taking those alternate or pushing the limits type lines, how much they'll get backed off as they have to be more careful with track limits. A little bit of wheel spin from Ian Kreger, loses almost 1/10 as a result. So it is going to be Hudson Poole with the easy win. Really good work from him. Blake's now cut that gap from P7 down to 1 second. So we're going to see Blake finish in P5. So as we come through the bus stop for the final time, it is the Red Bull of Hudson Pool with yet another win. The Hudson Hornet dominated again. Boat Boy in P2, Ian Krieger. Ricardo T in P3, Victor Diaz with a great recovery all the way back to P4. Jason Pelter, the Gator, in P5, but unfortunately he's going to lose that spot out to Blake. So it'll be Blake P5, P6 to Gator, P7 Eric McNerney, Jordan Angus in P8, Damian in at P9, Duncan McCamick P10. So it's a 110 for the Red Bulls. Colin Edwards, actually, yeah. No, Colin's going to stay back there in P11. A little bit too far back to take advantage of that extra 3 seconds of penalties. Anand Trivedi in P12. John Ranger and his teammate Jack Pemberton, P13, P14. Both Aston Martins finishing the drive. Tom Hatcap is this week's caboose as John Ranger actually lets Jack Pemberton through to give him a little bit of an advantage of some extra points there. Tom Hatcap in the Alpine, our caboose this weekend. Unfortunate for him, that damage ruined what was shaping up to be a really good race. And that is it, folks. That is 22 hard-fought laps around Spa-Francorchamps. And that is it for the Belgian Grand Prix for Division 1 here in Zoom Racing League. Driver of the day, Blake. How could it be anybody else? What an amazing drive from the Haas in his first ever race here in Division 1 Zoom Racing League. So there you see him on the podium. Hudson, Ian, and Ricardo, the young guns of Division 1. Not a one of them over 17 years old, if I am correct. Really good stuff tonight. Juanita Villa says, "Vamos, Blake." Absolutely. Good job, Blake. JMO says, "Great job, everyone." Awesome commentary. Great job, Blake. Thanks, everyone. And Flossie, super happy. Welcome to Haas, Blake. So good weekend. So there's your top 10. Hudson Pool, Ian Krieger, Ricardo T, Victor Diaz, Blake, Jason Belter, Eric McNerney, Jordan Angus, Damian Dew, Duncan McCamick rounds out your top 10. Fastest lap goes to Anand Trivedi. Does not get to hold on to that point, though. Unfortunately for the Haas, they will lose out that championship point because they're not in the top 10. So it's Colin Edwards, Anand Trivedi, Jack Pemberton, John Ranger, Tom Hatcap, our caboose. We said goodbye through DNF to Lee Hall, Travis Robinson, Peter Giordano, Chris Hannigan, and Jack Fletcher. Make sure to stand by for just a second, folks. We're going to wait for our drivers to jump over into the waiting room. And Ian Krieger is our first one there. Hudson Pool is there as well. Waiting to see if Ricardo wants to talk or not. But Big Mama Frank, so we had 2 safety cars and a VSC. It was a little bit surprising for me, honestly.
It was. We had a lot of guys who usually don't have, finish, like pretty much finish every race, go out. We had Lee Hall, Travis, and Peter, and even Jack all DNFing. So quite the surprise in terms of who didn't finish the race.
All right. So everyone's favorite Mexican. I say that. We have a lot of other drivers in the league that are of Mexican heritage. But Ricardo actually lives in Mexico and is a native Spanish speaker. So it's really cool to have him here, have him back. I had him for half a season last season, and the McLaren driver looks like he's back on form. So Ricardo T, a P3 here at Spa, a podium. How are you feeling right now, buddy?
Hey guys, yeah, it's amazing, really. One of the podiums I have enjoyed a lot the last days. I mean, with the new guys, D1 has gotten really competitive. Everyone's really close now. So yeah, getting this podium and also fixing my connection, missing last season, not racing a lot, not practicing, having this podium at this track, and after missing USA and getting a DNF in Brazil, it's really, really good.
Yeah, so my prediction actually in Brazil, I was really expecting you to dominate the way you did before, and had some early damage. You fell behind there and then retired the car. Had a weird kind of, your car rolled out of the pits and just kind of parked in Sector 1. And it was surprising for me because I was expecting the kind of dominance that you were exerting today. So some things have changed. Your connection's better. That's good. We're glad to have you back. But like you said, we got some of these young guys like Hudson Poole. Wasn't here last time, so you're having to work a little bit harder for wins and podiums, right?
Yeah, it's not going to be any easy, but I will give them a fight, and I know that sooner or later this season, a win will come out. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying these battles with everyone.
Well, it was a unfortunate time for your partner, Chris Hannigan, Mr. PBJ. Had a rough qualifying session, had a rough race. We know he is a very consistent driver. Do you know what happened with him? Just kind of a bad luck, maybe a little bit of a spin.
Yeah, in the start, I think he got damaged. He spun. So since the start, things were going a bit rusty. And I know that it's his first time in D1, so he's getting used to it. But I know in few races, he will get some top tens and even maybe some podiums and
Yep.
climb up in the constructors after these first top races.
Well, really good job tonight. It was kind of weird to see two safety cars, but you guys up front use that to your advantage, and you got a podium. So I know you're happy. I know Adam Klein's happy, and it's good news at least for one driver in McLaren this weekend.
Yeah, really, really good race.
Yep.
So,
All right, Ricardo. Thank you so very much. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
see you guys.
All right, P2, but it's half adulation, it is half disappointment. Really good race from the man, or well, young man. We're about to talk to Ian Krager, but what happened with your teammate and your team principal, Peter? Let's talk about that first, and we'll talk about your race.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really know what happened. I know he got hit from behind, so that's not good. And then he lost a couple positions due to that. And then it just kind of unfolded from there.
Well, let's hear about the race from your perspective. Two safety cars and a VSC. I assume you didn't plan for that, but when it happens and it works to your advantage, it's not the worst thing, is it?
No, it's not.
So is that something you guys planned for? It was a really great start, obviously, locking out the front row, 1-2. I think that's the second time you and Peter have done that together. I think you did it one time in Alpine last year, but Peter just didn't have the kind of luck and race that you did early on. It looked like he got overtaken by Lee Hall, and so a little bit of disappointment at the beginning there. So from your perspective, was it pretty smooth sailing, or was it getting kind of sweaty there at the end as you're trying to keep up with Hudson?
I would say both. Sweaty at the end, but kind of just sitting behind people throughout the whole race.
Well, it's unfortunate for the AlphaTauris. They both lost out. Ferrari was behind them in the constructors. You guys should move up a little bit. It would have been nice to have some points from Peter, but Red Bull seems to be continuing their domination. Are you guys still on the hunt for the constructors, or do you think Red Bull's kind of running away with it right now?
I think constructors is still doable. So we're still hunting for that.
All right. Well, let's see. Where are we headed to next? What is our next race?
Spain.
It's Spain, Barcelona. How do you feel about Barcelona? Is that a good track for you?
I don't know. I grinded by 30 some hours on the previous game, so I'm not too sure.
All right. Well, we'll see. And Ian Krager at P2 in the Ferrari. Good job. I put it on pole, maintained a P2 through all the disaster and drama. So pretty decent race. I know you are unhappy because it's not a win, but you still got to be, at least pleased somewhat with a P2.
Yeah, I like to do it.
All right, buddy. Well, we will see you back in Barcelona and see if you can't put that Ferrari in P1 to in the race.
Okay.
Later, buddy.
Thank you.
All right. Well, the kid that honestly, it was hard for me when we were doing the draft. We knew he was quick. Big Mama Frank, you talked about it earlier, that a lot of the time he doesn't know exactly what he's doing, but he knows he's doing it, and he knows to do it, but he doesn't know why he's doing it. And what he keeps doing is winning. And Hudson Poole, you didn't put it on pole, you didn't put it on P2, but all around, we didn't get to talk to you last week because you had hockey, but man, good race, right?
Yeah, it was a really good race. Really unfortunate for Duncan there to hit on that BSC and kind of screwed him over because of safety cars after, but we did really good.
Yeah, so for the most part, I know you guys did not plan for more than one safety car. So 2 safety cars and a VSC. So you're running a little bit heavier on fuel, but it didn't seem to affect you at all. Did you have any trouble from your perspective trying to hold Ian off there? Or was it pretty much just go out there and just run your laps and keep it clean? Because you ended with 0 warnings, so you weren't even close to getting a penalty. Ian and Ricardo behind you, and actually Victor as well in P4, both sitting on 2 warnings through most of the race. So you weren't even close to getting a penalty. Was it pretty easy from your perspective?
Well, after Coda, I strictly just told myself every lap to not get a warning because that was embarrassing. So, but getting away from Ian was not easy because every time I would go in front of someone or he would have to overtake them, he would just overtake them and get right into a second between me again. And it was, I just couldn't break DRS, but I managed my ERS really well for the last 2 laps. So I think that gave me the advantage.
Yeah, I know that's a big thing that they talk about in Red Bull that, I'm not necessarily supposed to know, but we have a lot of people that are really sweaty and burn through a lot of battery early, but you absolutely have to conserve it for those defenses near the end. So, good planning, good engineering. Who was engineering for you tonight?
Ethan Patel.
Well, we hate him, so we'll just pretend it didn't happen. But yeah, man, another good win. You've got a commanding lead right now in both the drivers and constructors, even with the unfortunate P10 for Duncan McCamick. Had a what do we see here? 4 pit stops for Duncan. Less than ideal, but still a P10. So Red Bull continues their dominance here in Division 1.
Yep.
All right.
It was a good race for us.
Yeah, we asked Ian. I'll ask you as well. Next up is Barcelona. We are headed to Spain for Catalunya. How do you feel about Barcelona? Is it a track that you feel you're pretty competent at? Is it one you like?
It's definitely not one of my favorite tracks. Probably one of my least favorite. But I don't know my pace on that track. It's been a while since I've done a league race, so I might be at a disadvantage. We'll see.
Well, I'll tell you what, I won't be mad at you if you decide to slow down and let the Mercedes through again and let Duncan ruck into the back of you. We can pull a Brazil all over again, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Hudson, thanks for your time. Good race tonight, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, have a good day.
You too. Big Mama Frank, that's it. We are done. We have run 4 divisions through Spa-Francorchamps, the Belgian Grand Prix. In Zoom Racing League, Division 3 had a wet quali. Everyone else was dry for both quali and the race. And it's a fun track. It gets a little boring at times. It can be sort of processional, but I think we saw some pretty good moves on stream as well.
Yeah, we did. It helped. We had the safety cars and we had people on different strategies. If we didn't get those safety cars, we would have, like you said, it would have been very processional. But man, hopefully with the new game, they do put a little bit of work on this track just to kind of either make people stay off the curbs or just make them a little bit easier to mount, because it just seems like you either know how to do the curbs through the second sector on this track or you don't, and it's not very fair when it's like that.
Yeah, it creates a great deal of imbalance, and you're either in or you're out. So yeah, definitely not a lot of fun for a lot of folks, but hopefully all of you tuned in tonight had a good time with us watching the best of the best, the fastest of the fast in Division 1. We are done. That is it for Division 1 of Zoom Racing League. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and we will see you in a week's time for the Spanish Grand Prix from Barcelona here in Zoom Racing League.